In this next video, we're going to look at some playback and live control options. So the first one we're going to look at is applying palettes over times and offsets. This can be particularly useful when busking shows using the programmer, but also you can use it for recording cues as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the Maverick Mark II spots here. I'm going to locate these, and then I'm going to start applying some palettes over times and offsets. So first of all, I'll just apply it over a time. What you need to do is select the time first using the keypad. So I'm going to type 5, and this will apply a palette over 5 seconds. If I now select red, you can see that red palette is going to be applied over those 5 seconds. If I record that into a cue, it's also going to record that time straight into the cue. So I'm going to do a couple more examples. So this time I'm going to say 5 for 5 seconds and then star. So what this is going to do is it's going to apply it over 5 seconds, but it's also going to have an offset from left to right. So if I select yellow, you can see over 5 seconds it's going to change from red to yellow, left to right. Again, I'm going to record that as a cue onto this playback. And a couple more examples. This doesn't have to be just with color palettes, you can do it with any palettes you like. So I'm going to do a position palette now. So if I say this time 5 star minus, and then select this fan out position, this is going to change to that position with a center out fan over that 5 second time. I'll record that as a cue. So that same playback. And then final example I'll use is 5 star plus. It's worth noting it doesn't have to be 5, you can select any number of seconds you like. 5 is just the example here for 5 seconds. And then I'm going to select a green palette, and it's going to do a center in fan this time over 5 seconds. And again, if I record that as a cue to that same playback, clear the programmer, and then if I bring up the cue stack, I'm going to set this to cue timing. And then as I step through these cues, you'll notice that it's going to use those times and offsets that are recorded into those cues. So there we go. It's used the times and the offsets there within each of those cues. And you can see it's moving to that new position over that time. Right, so that's applying palettes over times and offsets. What we're going to look at now is setting up a busking rate master. So what busking rate master can do is it means you can apply palettes over time, but you don't have to type the time first. You can just use this on, in this example, the crossfader, to just use that busking rate master to set the time. So if I go to setup, and then in the view settings tab, go to the playback tab, and then this third option here, crossfade master function, I'm going to change that to busking rate master. And you can see once I've changed that, a time appears down here. If I adjust the crossfader, bring this up a bit, this time is going to change up to a maximum of 10 seconds. So between 0 seconds at the bottom and 10 seconds at the top. So if I go back to layout 1, select my spots, locate those. If I just apply palettes, with that busking rate master at the bottom, they're applying over 0 seconds, they're just applying straight away. If I lift the crossfader up, my busking rate master, to around 5 seconds, and then apply a palette, it's going to apply that palette over that 5 seconds. And again, if I take the crossfader right up to the top, 10 seconds, and apply another palette, it's going to apply that palette over that 10-second time, as you can see. Right, so that's setting up a busking rate master, which is sort of the alternative to using times with palettes. What we're going to look at now is also tap to time buttons. So setting tap to time buttons is particularly useful when busking live shows, to make sure everything's nice and in sync with the music of your live bands that you might be lighting. So if I go to setup again, and again under view settings, playback, we've got a couple of different options here. The first one is down towards the bottom of the window, we've got tap to time buttons here. By default, this is set to none. If I double click on this option, it's going to pop up the various options we've got here. So we've got the options to set a few different buttons up as tap to time buttons. I'm going to use S buttons as an example. So this is going to mean that each S button on each one of my playbacks is now a tap to time button for that individual playback. As an example, if I bring up the Q-Stack window for this playback I've just recorded, and then go to change this to chase timing, and say, yes, I want to change it to chase timing. If I bring up that fader, it's running along at that time. And then if I tap the S button in time, that's working as a tap to time button now, so it's going to follow that time that I've just tapped. It's worth noting as well, if you want to carry out any of the normal functions with your S key, such as bringing up the Q-Stack window, with it set to a tap to time button, this isn't going to work. What you need to do is hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and then tap the S key, and then it will work as normal. So that's tap to time on S keys. Another option we've got for this is using the crossfade button. So again, if I go back to setup and go to here, we've got crossfade button function under this same playback tab. I can change that. I've got a couple of options here. I've got tap to time selected and I've got global tap to time. So the difference here being tap to time selected would be for the currently selected S key, or global tap to time is going to apply that time over absolutely everything that's active. So if I select global tap to time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate a couple of cues here. So I've got this par chase here, and then this Q-Stack that I've just recorded here. There we go, we've got both of those running. And I'm now going to press the crossfade button here, like so, and that's going to act as a global tap to time. And you can see now both of those chases are running nicely in sync. There might be times when you don't want everything quite the same. Maybe you want to divide or multiply times, or maybe you want to inhibit it so some playbacks ignore times completely. That's fine, that can be done too. I'm just going to change my tap to time buttons from S keys to back to none, and then I'm going to triple tap the S key for this playback here, and then under the audio tab we've got rate divisor here. So what this does is it lets you divide or multiply by certain times for your tap to time. So if I select multiply by 2, for example, that's going to multiply what I tap by 2, so it'll be double the speed. So if I now tap a time again, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll notice in my visualizer here, this Q-Stack is following that time, whereas this Q-Stack that I've set up my rate divisor on has doubled that time, so it's going double the speed of the other Q-Stack. You can also inhibit it so it ignores the time completely. So again, if I select the rate divisor option here and select inhibit, if I now tap a time again, I'm going to tap something particularly fast. You can see this Q-Stack is running at that really fast speed, whereas this Q-Stack has ignored that and it's still running at the previous speed. So that's rate divisors and setting that to inhibit as well for your tap to time buttons. In the next video, we're going to look at some advanced Q-Stack options.